Robert, thank you so much for being with us at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame tonight.
We're at the Rock Hall,
Woo!
baby. Let's get it down.
Uh,
Long live rock forever.
That's it. Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for coming into town today and spending the whole day with us. You know, we
The
should
whole
mention
day.
you were here doing some things for our educational program,
Yes.
talking about your music and the traditions that go into your music. And thank you so much, man, for contributing and helping out our programming.
Thank you. I mean, listen, thanks for having me here. It's been a treat being a part of this beautiful day, learning more, talking about all the things that you guys have going on with Rock and Roll EDU, and it's such a great thing that we need in this world,
Absolutely.
music education,
Yeah.
just log on and get some.
That's right. That's gonna be the tagline now. We're gonna take that, Robert.
Really? But seriously though, that's what kids need, and for me growing up in church, music was originally the only reason that you kind of go to church, right? Because it's kind of, you see all the old people, right? But you don't really recognize that, you don't really realize that music, it's like that driving force, that keeps us all happy when we're down. It brings us up to practice, to play, to listen to our favorite song. It's something that really never ends. So the more that kids even just, and I always tell people, people ask me like, how do I become a star? I'm like, listen, it doesn't matter. You're always going to be a star to somebody, right? So if I never came out here, I was already kind of a star in my church. I was seriously,
Right.
I was like the church star,
Right.
right? How most of us are, right? When you look at Aretha, she was already the church star before she became
Absolutely.
the
right.
best female singer
Ever, right.
or the best singer in the history of the world, and that's just kind of, you just never know. We kind of develop a love for music, and you develop, it kind of keeps you busy, developing, learning new ideas. But
Do you know when that started for you? Like, do you remember, your story has so much to do with the church and coming out of that music, gospel music.
Yeah.
Do you remember, was there a time where you said, whoa, what is this? I got to do more of this. Did you ever have that moment, or was it just always there for you?
Well, the love for music, I was a drummer in church before I started playing the pedal steel, but my father had bought me one he bought me like a lap steel when I was 13, which is a smaller version of this. So he had bought me a lap steel, and I kind of like never really played it, put it underneath my bed, never really wanted to try it. And then all of a sudden around like 16, that was the moment. There was this older guy in our church. He's one of our pioneers named Henry Nelson. He came and did like this church revival, and I saw him playing. I was like, well, let me go back home.
See what this thing under the bed is.
Yeah, let me go see what this thing under the bed is, right?
Right.
And that's when I really started getting into it. And, I would practice. I would feel sorry for all of the neighbors. And actually my friends at the time would be like, shut up. What are you doing?
Right.
And it's kind of funny at that time. They'd be like, what are you doing, man? Get your ass outside. Come outside and run the streets with us,
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, you grow up in the inner city neighborhood, and there's so many things that's going on, right? And at that time, there was, a lot of people going to jail, a lot of my friends going to jail as I was 16, 17, 18. And I found out the more I stayed in the house and practiced, the more I wasn't going to jail.
Right.
Right.
So there was a level of the music was a sort of safe space.
Well,
for
it keeps
too,
you
right?
busy for one,
Yeah.
and then it forces you to develop a love for it, and then it becomes sort of this sort of saving grace, right? Especially growing up in church, then everything sort of clicks in, right? But it really just keeps you busy. That's so powerful, about any instrument. There's never a point to where you conquer an instrument,
Yeah, right.
no matter who we are, right? I mean, we all look at Hendrix as like the god, but Hendrix created a thing. And when you hear the stories of everybody who I never saw Hendrix play, but when you hear stories of that, people were like, that was, we thought we couldn't go any further.
Right, right.
But then after that, then comes Eddie Van Halen, right? And so many others. But when you talk about, what Eddie Van Halen started doing, Hendrix never thought about doing that.
Yeah, right.
So
I think at one point Jeff Beck had even said, when somebody asked him what it felt like to be one of the great guitar players, he said, "I'm a third of the way there."
Yeah.
Third of the way,
Yeah, because as a guitar player, we all, for me, especially playing a pedal steel, which is mainly, people see it, and it's mainly been used in country music, right?
Yeah.
Started in Hawaiian music, then went on to country music. But for our church, ever since the last 100 years, especially here in Ohio, see, my church's deep roots are here in Cleveland.
Wow. Yeah.
Where you had guys like Calvin Cook, Maynard, and all of these different people from my church had their own chitlin circuit here between Cleveland, Columbus, Akron, Dayton, and then going over to Detroit.
And that gospel history in general is so strong in Cleveland, right?
Yes. So, and that goes back literally all the way back to the 30s.
Yeah.
So 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Like, this was going on. I could take you guys to the church one day, take you to the hood, and show
Yeah.
Right, it's been going on for a long time here. And if you go to the church now, you'll probably see a young kid or a woman playing the pedal steel in our church. So it's like, it's kind of been this hidden story of sort of like the Buena Vista Social Club that's been going on in every major inner city in the United States, especially in the East Coast and the Midwest for the last almost 100 years.
And that's, of course, the tradition that people will often refer to as sacred steel, right?
Sacred steel, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm just one of those people that grew up in this tradition. I mean, I was a little radical. I'm the radical left, I guess. In my church, I'm the radical left. In terms of pedal steel, right? So, yeah, because I started listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan. Then I got into Hendrix and AC/DC and Zeppelin and all these different bands, right? And then that's when I started like playing all these wacky sounds, doing crazy things. And that's just the sort of the history of Robert Randolph and the pedal steel world. This is a little instrumental piece.
So when you started playing, hearing Hendrix and AC/DC and all that stuff, changing your style, was that radicalized you as far as the church? They were like, "What are you playing, Robert?" Right?
Exactly. I became sort of the devil.
Right.
I'm telling you, man, I was the radical left in my church.
But then that is really, I think, a big part of your story that you've talked about before, right? That you came from that Sacred Steel tradition, but
Yes.
then you've really found a way to mix that with so much of rock and roll, so many other just American music sounds. People have called you Americana, they've called you blues or soul. You've been on stages with, Clapton, and you've been on stages, with, I think Santana at some point. So what was that like, that transformation from the more gospel lap steel world out into rock and roll?
Well, you want to know what's crazy, man? Like, as you guys, as you stroll, for anybody that's had never been here, or if you've been here before, but if you stroll through the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right, and you look at all these artists, and it's kind of funny talking about me, and I'm looking at Aretha, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, everybody here is a unicorn in some sort of tradition that they grew up in.
Yeah.
Right? So I was a unicorn because I decided to play and be inspired by a different thing, right? Aretha was a gospel singer growing up in church, right? And I'm sure you guys all saw the movie or the documentary with her father. Like, so Aretha's father was told by his church to disown his own daughter just because she decided to go out
and do secular music.
And do secular music. But when you look at the time that we're in, that like, whoa. Like now we got like, some of the, when you turn to talking about music now and the lyrics.
Yeah, right.
That's why anybody that's stuck in a time zone, it's literally like watching Back to the Future.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, man, like, that's not what the world is. Like, the world will always evolve.
Yeah, that's a great point, right.
So it's just kind of weird, like, looking at all the people that's here, when you talk about, like, Chuck Berry and Sister Rosetta Tharpe and the Stones and the Beatles, like, that was all, like, what are you guys doing? Right? And then it was like, whoa, by the millennials. Don't forget, always by the younger generation. It was like, this is the best thing ever. Not by the older people.
Right.
Older people like the traditional
youth
things.
Culture, right.
Yes. Yeah. So that's what music is. The music is, there's always a new birth of a new nation of people, right? And as we're moving now, as I walked in and saw the new exhibit that you guys have down there.
Yeah, it's
right?
been said all along.
Like, that's what the new music fans want to come see. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's just the way it is. Yep. Like, sorry, right? Some older people be like, what is that? I came in here to see Chet Atkins or Elvis, right?
Right.
It's like, well, hey, guess what? The world is moving on.
And I think that's...
Although we still love Elvis and all those people.
Right, well, that's what I was
It's just like, this is what's, like, this is the new thing.
That's the amazing part about music when you can get it to happen, is if you can connect generations and people and see how a Bruno Mars goes back to a James Brown or goes back to, right?
Yeah.
And each of these has a lineage of it.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good thing about being in the Rock Hall, right? Because when you come in here, listen, a guy like me, you get humbled, right? A guy like, I'm sure you guys have seen this and heard this from many of the artists that comes in here, right? Because as great as we all think we are, you get humbled because you're looking at people's exhibits that influence you and influence the rest of the world. It's not just like a person with a top 40 hit and they're here for 2 years.
Right.
No, like these people changed the world. They forever changed the landscape of music, right? And there's nothing nobody could take away. Whether they died with $20 million or died with nothing, right? They changed the world forever. That's what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is about, right? This is not like some sort of, regional museum, right?
Right. It is
this
a
is
global, change society.
Everybody in the world is like, let's see what's going down.
Right,
You
right.
know, like this. Like this is the truth. And you walk in here, man, like, and you start seeing the pictures. Like, whoa, you're right. Like B.B. King, you know.
I can tell you up on that third floor where the Hall of Fame is upstairs, you know, and when we redesigned that first photo when you walk in is the big one of Chuck Berry.
Exactly.
First inductee, first
Yep.
guy inducted in the Rock Hall, rightly so. I can't tell you how many times we walk artists through there, and folks even who are inducted, who are going to be in the Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
and they see that picture and they think, man, I'm on this list somewhere, right?
Yep.
It's amazing. It brings tears to many people.
I'm telling you, when you see, because you know, and you know, it's always great to go back and see how the Stones went back and let the world know where they got the music from.
Yeah.
You know, like it's kind of the time that we're in. The world heals when they know the truth. You can only hide the truth but for so long. So the Stones say, "Oh, hey, everybody, here's where we got this stuff from. Here's who inspired us to go on and then be inspirational to others, not hide
right.
this whole thing." So when everybody sees Chuck Berry, it's not just the Stones, but he just changed everybody. It's like, I mean, even today, you still see the guy. Like, it's funny. I was watching a clip of Chuck Berry last week, and I called somebody. I said, "Man, I'm not working hard enough on stage." You know, I'm like,
Right.
this dude is. First of all, he's created a style of music that applies to everything, right? A style of guitar playing, a style of singing that always applies to every style of music. You know,
Yeah.
they don't let them going. Everybody going around, like that goes in hip hop.
Yeah.
And I see my baby coming, right? Rock and roll, blues, gospel. I see my Lord coming, everybody coming away. You know, Stones goes into Aerosmith, goes into Run DMC, goes into, you know, NBA YoungBoy,
Yeah. Right.
right? Kanye, Jay-Z. You know, it goes into everything.
That's old blues thing we used to do in church, you know. They ain't realize they was getting down to the blues, you know. See, that's the hard thing in church, you know. You had to play the bass guy when nobody shows up. Then you had to be the rhythm guy. Then you had to be the vocal singer when the singer got finished singing. You hear. Then you got to go back to the bass and rhythm. You know, a lot of ADD going on. So you hear how the blues and gospel all mesh together. Rock and roll. Then I'm gonna play a little lick that I learned from Sister Mahalia Jackson. You know? Y'all hear what I'm saying out there, ladies and gentlemen? And I'm gonna play a little lick that I learned from Sam Cooke, you know. You know, that's how the vocal singers sort of influenced me in Pedal steel, lap steel. And then it all goes back to gospel. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Since I burdened down. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Since I laid my burden down. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Right on.
All right, we are here with the wonderful Grammy-nominated extraordinaire, Mr. Robert Randolph. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Truly an honor to have you here, especially during this month.
Yes.
Where we're celebrating Black history. You are a part of that narrative, so it's really great to have a giant like yourself here today.
Thank you. Thanks. So I'm excited to be here. It's an honor. It's a pleasure. I'm like so excited, and here we are finally. So thank you for having me here.
Yes. Well, folks can see these artifacts that we're holding. So
Yes. You have my
Yes.
Robert Randolph 13-string pedal steel guitar that I performed with on the Grammys and many other places, along with my Grammy special outfit that I had made, which was a throwback Dr. J special tailor-made Robert Randolph suit that I wore. So I'm excited to share it here with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame right here Rock and Rage, baby.
Yes, Rock and Rage. Can you tell us a little bit about the significance of this pedal steel? Like, how long have you had this, and why you're giving this one in particular to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Well, I have basically custom this guitar for it to do different voicings and different things, and I wind up playing it on the pedal steel. It's got the fire on the front to bring fire and desire. So I designed this one especially for me with my signature double pickups that nobody had, double humbuckers, right? So, and I performed with it on the Grammys and when they asked me to perform, which was a big moment for me and changed my life and career forever. So get to share it here with the Rock Hall, and I'm excited.
Robert, I wanted to ask you about the record you put out, I think it was 2019, Brighter Days.
Yes.
Awesome album, Robert Randolph and the Family Band. Amazing record. When you made that, calling it Brighter Days, and you got songs like Baptize Me on there, what was that about, and then how did you think about those songs in that record after the whole world began to continue to disrupt and change throughout 2020?
Wow, to put out the record Brighter Days, when we were writing it, whenever we wrote that, I forget what year, it's probably 2018, 2017, going into 2018, we wrote those songs. And just to think like where we were at that time, it was kind of like, here's a call to bring people together, spread love, spread hope. And that's always kind of like my duty, to always give people the flip side of life, to let people know that there's always help, right?
Yeah,
We're
right.
always here to help each other. That's our call of duty of being born, right? We're all servants. The more we all get to share our songs and musical gifts and words of hope, words of joy, words of help. There's always help for those who feel helpless. That's what life is about. So when recording Brighter Days and songs like Baptize Me and Secondhand Man and all these different stories lets you know that the outcome is always, there's somebody there to help you. So never feel helpless. In a time today where we're seeing people commit suicide and turn to all these different things at a more than alarming rate, the building's on fire. People feel helpless. They feel hopeless. So that, to me, coming from church, coming from a gospel element, to where, first of all, you go to church, and here's the thing, right? We go to church, and when you get in church, the theme of going to church is like, whatever problems you have, there's always a loud person, right? While I'm looking at Aretha, right? There's always somebody yelling, whatever problems you had before you came here, leave them at the front door. Come in here and rejoice, because God is here with you. God is always here to help you. So by me always having that been a theme of probably 1,000 church services.
Oh, right.
Actually more than that, right? Thousands of church services I've been to. Why not share that with the world who never had that, who never thought about going to church? It's not, whatever. But that's just what the purpose is. You go to church to say, leave your burdens at the doorstep, right? Because you can't carry your burdens and you can't lift the burdens off yourself, right?
Yeah.
So we're here to sort of always pick each other up.
I think that's maybe why that album continues even right now, Robert, to resonate so much.
Yes.
Because of that, and actually in a weird way that the world, unfortunately,
Yes.
got even darker after you made that music and things got harder for
Ooh,
people.
Man, maybe that was...
That message maybe
The world got darker after the
resonates even
record.
more, right? I mean, it's such a positive record. It makes you feel, we were talking earlier and you said one of the things you loved about Sly and the Family Stone was that joy in the music, right?
Yes.
Thank you for letting me be myself. And
Yeah.
I hear some of that in Brighter Days, too.
Yeah, and when you think about when those records were made, what was going on in the world. And I saw an interview where I think it might have been, it was a late night show. I forget the guy's name. He asked Sly, Dick Cavett show.
Oh, yeah,
Asked
right.
Sly what made him want to record I want to take you higher. He said, look, at that time, the world was at war. Like, it was all these different wars going on and all these different, same thing, you know, racial things happening and all these things happening. And he said, we just wanted to lift people's spirits up, you know? And it's kind of funny, but he did say, he said, well, everybody was getting high. People wanted to be lifted higher. He said, people were getting high, but people also wanted their spirits to be lifted higher. So he wanted to write a universal theme.
Right.
But just in that time, man, when you look at, I think we're at a turn, like the world is flipping over, especially in this country, right? People are just, you know, you have millennials, you have the internet, you got social media. You can't hide who you are anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just can't, right? I'm sorry. I mean, that's kind of cool, you know? You can't really,
Right.
you can't really lie to the people anymore. When I mean that, you can't lie about history, historical things. You know, one group did this, one group is not that, right? You're animals and you're the good people or you're the bad people, right? You just can't do that anymore. Millennials always change the world. And it's time when you look at what's going around in the world today, right, when the whole George Floyd thing happened, right, when you saw, right, and I had my grandmother actually, and her sisters are 90 years old, right, and actually they were like, hey, look at this. My grandmother said when we were marching, we'd be lucky if we get 5 white people to join the march, just so we can use the same bathroom or go to the same restaurant.
Right.
Now we got hundreds of millions, tens of millions of white people joining black people all around the world, we saw, marching together. She was like, what in the world happened? Right? So the world is changing, man, you know? All of this relates, because here we are sitting in the Rock Hall. And I don't care if you go back to and listen to somebody, an artist that you guys have discovered here who were like probably the earliest of the earliest people. If you listen to their songs, it's pretty much the same thing about what we're singing about today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't care if it's Marvin Gaye. I don't care if you go back to Sam Cooke. That's the sounds of the men working on the change.
Yep.
You can go back to another 10 years, back another 10 years, back another 10 years, right? All the way down to the earliest of blues, to the earliest of gospel, field recordings. The theme has always been about equality, send help, we need help, let us all come together. It's always been like that, right? And you look at now, like what do we, like the top hip hop song you'll get, like you had people that had enough, right? And it's like, all right, we're gonna do this. So that's where we are.
Well, Robert, I want to thank you, man, for spending the day with us. So much great conversation and music. It's been a lot of fun, and we're going to get you back when we get a live audience. But thank you so much for being here, man.
Yes.
Really
Yeah.
Dirty water, red clay mud. I need redemption. I'm safe from the flood. Give me everlasting, immortal love. I'm barefoot waiting. I'm washed in the blood. Y'all. I'm down on my knees. Lord, baptize me. Down on my knees, Lord, baptize me. push me under, when you pull